Well, all right then. I just spent over a day trying to figure out this puzzle and reading up on Shakespeare and the stories or like the plays of these tragedies. And I actually got pretty close to figuring it out. I mean, I wasn't completely off about the whole storylines being there and you need to like place them in a certain order. But it's just but like there's more to it than that. It's like you don't it's not just that knowing about the place and what happens and all that and then placing the books in correct order. There's also some extra stuff that you need to figure out, and I don't know, this is kind of crazy puzzle for my pea brain. I mean, this is way too big brain, and I have to like my mental cardio just isn't enough for these types of gymnastics. This is like insane. And if all of these are going to be like on this level, I'm pretty sure I can't finish this without just watching guides. I mean, I'm thinking about restarting the game from the beginning and actually picking up hard difficulty for combat but normal difficulty for Riddle. But I guess I'll keep on doing this because it might be this might have been just like one off and it's not going to be all of these like this types of insane stuff. I don't mind the fact that it's like you have to know about like the place and all of those because like outside of the game. I mean, it could have been done better with like they actually like there be hints around the bookstore or somewhere about the different place, so you'd need to like piece them together. I think that might have been a bit better way to actually make this. But since it's 2025, internet is here, it's kind of easy. Like back when this was released, 2004, I think, or early 2000s, it probably was a bit harder to find the information from internet back then. So you'd actually need to have like an outside knowledge of this. And I was kind of expecting it. I was expecting this game to have like an outside knowledge things like maybe like for chemistry or what's the English word for the other, like not chemistry but like the physics parts or those. So I felt like this game probably has those types of things. And I was kind of expecting it, and I was thinking that maybe I can just like look up at the information on the internet without like, because it's not like it's I don't know, like it's kind of, this game kind of expects you to be on like be studying, like studied everything and like be on that level of like educational achievements, academics, but I don't know. So the thing is, let's piece this together and then I'll explain what eventually happened. Yeah, I needed to actually like go and look. I almost basically got the puzzle, most of it right, but I was still missing stuff and it wasn't like sure obvious what I was missing, how it actually worked out. So I went into another YouTuber's like tried to search around for the hints for the game instead of like the game like someone giving you the correct answer instantly, and like see if I can figure out from the hints for the thing. And there actually happens to be a YouTuber or a streamer who actually did that exact thing and actually pieced the answer together in a way that you can like try to like giving you hints and you can like try to figure it out by yourself without like spoiling the answer instantly. And I have to give a shout out and thank you to that. It's Voidburger Gaming, or I guess they want to be called Voidburger, but Voidburger Gaming is their channel. I'll put the description, the link to their channel into description, because that's actually really well made. It's specifically for this like puzzle. this bookstore Shakespeare puzzle, and I have to give a shout out because I was actually able to figure out the solution without spoiling myself or getting the solution. Like I just went to a certain part and I was like, I had suspicions on how to figure out the puzzle, but it would have taken like so long to just brute force it basically. Is this the correct one? Is this the correct one? Is this how it's supposed to be? So I had suspicions and they confirmed my suspicions, so I didn't need to keep on brute forcing like the different types of solutions. And I could figure it out when I got to a part where it was saying that the order of the books is actually meaningful, because I had no idea if the order of the books even was meaningful, because I tried different placings in here, even though I knew about the whole storylines, but I just, since there's no feedback, or the game doesn't there's no it doesn't tell you when you have the correct order, and I was figuring if is this the right way, is this what is the right way. So yeah, anyway, check out that channel and check out that video, because that's actually how I figured it out, but it didn't give me the solution instantly, which it was perfectly made in a way that you could piece it together, and from the hints confirm your suspicions or thoughts. I think that was really great. I don't know how people are expecting this to how people are supposed to actually figure this out on their own. There has to be some fucking super geniuses who just figure out all of this shit out of the box, so geniuses that they just fucking figure it out by themselves or something, because I couldn't have this was this would have taken me a whole fucking year to just keep on repeating and trying different solutions, that maybe that means that, maybe that means that, maybe that is that, and yeah. So anyway, yeah, let's get on with it. So now I actually know the fucking Shakespeare stories of at least these books. Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, Macbeth, Othello, and King Lear. Now I at least know their storylines completely. And I wasn't completely off. Hamlet actually was the guy who spoke to a skull to be or not to be, but it was just alas poor Yorick and all that. So I spent just a lot of time actually looking at the storylines and actually learning the synopsis. So now I know the synopsis of those stories basically. And I guess thank you Silent Hill 3 and Silent Hill 3 developers, I guess. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm really going to be needing that information outside of this, but sure. So anyway, let's start with the whole puzzle checking out. I'll go it by the play by play. So the thing about this is there's so many, I feel like this is kind of a not maybe mistranslated, but not really it's I feel like it's not translated or pieced out well enough. It tries to confuse you. I mean, it's not a big it's not a, maybe it's not a bad thing, but it feels if you want to actually people to be able to progress and get through the puzzle, you can't make it completely convoluted and confusing and so irrational that it doesn't you have to give certain points where you can see which applies to the puzzle and which doesn't apply to the puzzle, let's say. Because in this part, you can understand that this in here is a tragedy, art thou player or audience, be as it may, the end doth remain, all go on only toward death. Is this part of the puzzle or not? How do you know? How can you actually know? I mean, when I was trying to figure out the puzzle, I actually like tried to check out like since I was confused about the numbers and all that, I was like maybe you need to like put them in a certain order, like the book order matters, but maybe you need to like check out the because they all go on only toward death. Maybe you need to like pick out the number of deaths that the game, like the story has, and use that. So you'd pick like okay, 4 people dies in this, so it must be the code number 4. Because that's like one of the, be as it may, the end doth remain, all go on only toward death. Then I actually thought about like maybe the book, like how many characters are in the play matters, but there's too many in certain parts, so it would go over 10. Then I was thinking, okay, so maybe it's like the main characters, so like in the opening act or in the beginning that get introduced. Maybe it's that much people. Because it's like Arto player or audience and all that. Like, this is so confusing, but in the end, this doesn't matter at all. This is the part where it actually begins. The first words at thy left hand, and it actually means just that I thought that it starts from the left side. A false lunacy, a madly dancing man, hearing unhearable words, drawn to a beloved's grave, and there, mayhap true madness at last. So this is the first book, and it's placed on the first part. And this tells about, this is about Hamlet. So Hamlet actually, like in the story, he tries to avenge his father, who was murdered by his uncle. And he has to make a plan to actually like act as a madman, like a crazy person, just to like play a cover up for himself. So he's basically falsing a lunacy. He's basically like acting like a crazed person, but he's not. A madly dancing man isn't like I didn't find any about the synopsis, but I guess it's like part of the thing. He is madly dancing man, hearing unhearable words, drawn to a beloved's grave. Okay, so he actually sees his like the thing about these puzzles is that or this like these lines is that part of them actually apply to each other, like another book as well. And I was like thinking that maybe actually you need to like put them like like count the amounts of times that there is the like the how many books have the same like principle set. Because for example, this false lunacy, not false lunacy, but lunacy is actually a pretty like a big thing in some of Shakespeare's, like at least in these. Because for example, and a madly dancing man in the King Lear, the king goes actually mad, but he gets cured or treated for it, so he becomes normal. And there's actually a fool or a jester following him around, which could be a madly dancing man. So these are like so, like this is what I mean about the convolution of it. Like they're not what's the word? Like they're not unique, so it's kind of hard to understand what could it be, and that's I guess their point. But it also makes it so that you cannot know the answer completely unless you actually know what the developers meant. And if how the fuck can you know how another person means something to happen? That's like, this is just like a brute forcing it basically, what is right and what is wrong. But this is like a, there's other like hints that also they're like hearing unhearable words. Like he actually hears his father's words, ghost, dead father's words, like his father becomes an apparition, a ghost, and actually speak to him and asks him to avenge himself. But that also applies to Macbeth, because in Macbeth actually, well, partly in Macbeth actually, the Macbeth sees a person who he gets murdered come and sit on a table and actually like a ghost come and sit on a table and actually like well, I don't think he speaks, but anyway, it partly affects that. Also, he Macbeth sees like ghosts that actually inform him of his powers and future and all that shit. But drawn to a beloved's grave doesn't apply to King Lear. There's no like beloved in his story unless you can make like some sort of a weird allusion to his daughter, true, like the daughter who was true to her, Cordelia. You can actually like make an allusion that it was a beloved, but in what sense? Because it wasn't like a beloved, but like a person he eventually loved because she was his daughter. But yeah, but then again, that also applies to Romeo and Juliet, because in Romeo and Juliet, Romeo actually goes into Juliet, in the end, eventually goes to Juliet's crypt and kills himself there. And there mayhap true madness at last, and there's like he kills himself, so mayhap there's true madness because he kills himself, or it might be like some weird what's the word for like means something else. Say something else but means something else, like symbolism or something. But the thing is, drawn to a beloved grave in Hamlet. Hamlet actually like goes to his beloved's grave in the end, or like a woman he loved, who I think killed herself. Yeah, or it's not told if she actually obviously killed herself, but she died, and in the end, Hamlet goes there, but he doesn't get like true madness or anything. But he dies. Like basically everyone dies. So anyway, there's a fairly large like certainty that this is Hamlet. This is like the most like obvious one. So Hamlet is number 4, right? Yeah. So I'll just place this here. It would be the first one. Then the second one. So this was the first one. Then it is. You can't know if this is kind of like obvious that it jumps into another like story, but you can never be 100% sure because you don't even know what the first part, if it's like meant to be part of the puzzle or not. As did this one, playing at dead, find a true dead at the last. Killing a nameless lover, she pierced her heart rent by sorrow. Okay, so this is Romeo and Juliet. Because in Romeo and Juliet, like notice that it's she. They talk about she. So it's about a woman who pierced a heart rent by sorrow. So basically, like stabbed someone in the heart. Killing a nameless lover, she pierced a heart rent by sorrow. So that kind of would allude that she killed her nameless lover and pierced his heart that was rent by sorrow. But when you look at the story, you can kind of figure it out, because as did this one, playing at dead, find true death at the last. So Juliet actually drank this fake poison that made her look like she was dead. And that's why she was like, it was a trick to actually like be able to elope with her true love, and it was a trick. So she was playing at death, and she eventually died because she killed herself. Notice that. Find true death at the last. And there's like none of these other storylines actually. Like this is completely like, I can't make any like like logical conclusions it to be anything else than Romeo and Juliet. Because Juliet actually, like, killing a nameless lover, which is kind of weird because Romeo was, well, named. She knew his name. So I'm not understanding or there's like some different kind of allusion to this, but she pierced a heart rent by sorrow. She killed herself with a dagger, piercing herself, because Romeo killed himself because Romeo thought that Juliet had died and he couldn't keep on living without her. And when she came out of the coma or the poison wore off, like the fake poison, she saw what happened, and she was so distraught with sorrow that she actually killed herself by piercing her heart. I mean, pierce the heart, like, I'm not sure if it says it explicitly anywhere, but she pierced herself with a dagger, and I assume that's like, in this case, they think that she'd pierce her heart, because that's the way to die. I mean, so it's kind of obvious that this one is Romeo and Juliet. Okay? So the second book is Romeo and Juliet, and Romeo and Juliet is the first one. Yes. This is like the most obvious one. Can I? Yeah, you can't look at the memos in here. This is kind of clunky, in my opinion, how they made this, like, the way they made the user interface to working. So, then it comes to like the what the fuck ever. Don't lie, invite truth. Don't verity, but wear the mask of falsehood. Ah, thou pitiful, thou miserable ones. So, what the fuck? Like, there's lots of lying in these storylines in all of these. There's lots of lying, but this kind of like, you can't really figure out anything specifically from this. There's like basically one story where there's like the biggest, like in Othello, the main character, he's like ally or like a soldier or something like that, tries to convince him that his wife is actually having an affair with another like a soldier, and that's kind of the biggest one because there's like lying in itself a lot, but that's like the most like obvious thing there could be. Like you can actually make a like a, what's the word, like an allusion or comparison, or a few of the books actually like could be placed here because of the, for example, in King Lear, his daughters, like two of his daughters, just lie to like make try to like be in good graces with their father and lie to them. So it's kind of like, is it the truth? Don't lie, invite truth? If they lie, is it the truth and all that? But, and that might fit in this, ah, thou pitiful, thou miserable ones. It kind of like could allude to those daughters being pitiful and miserable because they lie to like do this. Or it could, like, ah, thou pitiful could be like a reference to the king for believing the lies and thinking it's the truth, and how miserable ones could be the daughters for lying. They're being miserable. They're miserable people, you know. So this might be King Lear as well. Like if you make that comparison. other than that, Othello or King Lear, it's like, which one? But you don't have like, there's another point where you kind of like can suss out the King Lear because it's more like obvious to be in there in that part. So I don't know. I'm trying to remember what else. We're still missing Macbeth and King Lear and Othello. Yeah. And if those two are already there, they're kind of like obvious. Well, I don't know. But then it continues. And this is like it's obvious that this is like a continuation, in my opinion, to that previous. For whatever reason, they split. It seems like they split this one part to two different like pages. And this is what I mean about like I was trying to count how many like parts there are, and I was like, what the fuck? This is like this just doesn't make sense because there's like 6 parts to this, which could be like figured out to be like a story line or like from a book. And I was like, what the fuck? This doesn't make any sense. How are there 6 parts even though there's 5 books? And if you actually like count the previous one and this one together, then you kind of get like the 5 parts. But still, I mean, this whole thing is like this is the thing I actually got right, but it's still so weird. Still amidst lies through the end come not. Why? That's fervor is why. Why yearn for death? Wilt thou attend to thy beloved? Truths and lies, life and death, a game of turning white to black and black to white. And this is the part which is like I didn't understand because I kind of didn't like understand the whole like idea. Now in hindsight, it's kind of obvious. A game of turning white to black and black to white. That's Othello, the game. It's like so this has to be Othello. There's like, not to mention there's the lies, and in Othello, the main character actually believes the lies about his wife being a cheater or having an affair, and he ends up killing his wife, but in the end understands that he actually she actually was telling the truth and he was set up. So he ends up killing himself. And there's like this is like makes obvious sense. Still amidst lies through the end come, though the end come not. So even after the lies, you do not die. Why do you still yearn for death? And then it's will you attend to your beloved? So will you follow your beloved to death and actually like attend to her because what happened? So it kind of alludes to the fact that Othello killed himself and went there after the lies. So, and he didn't die, so still he actually killed himself. That's kind of the way. And this wouldn't be like completely obvious because, for example, in Romeo and Juliet, why couldn't this fit to Romeo and Juliet? Because he actually kills Romeo kills himself and Juliet kills himself, and they basically like and Juliet was basically lying because she was faking the poison thing and all that. Then also in Macbeth, it's like his wife dies or kills herself, like dies from sickness, I think, and he has basically a breakdown, but still keeps on like going on, which might like somehow make sense to be in this part as well. But then the whole game of turning white to black and black to white is kind of truths and lies, life and death. A game of turning white to black and black to white is kind of like an allusion to Othello, and it's like the most clearest thing. But since I don't know what the hell, like how are there, like if you just look at this, why are there 2 separate pages talking about the same, or is the other one something else which isn't fucking obvious at all? There's no like point to it. So let's just keep this and try to see like this. This was my train of thought. Let's just keep through this and try to check out the next part if it like makes any sense. Like I know like I was like Othello must be at this part because this is like either one, but is it the third one or the fourth one? I don't know. So let's see. But then there was the King Lear became kind of obvious after this because in King Lear it starts up with the king actually offering to give like split his like kingdom to his 3 daughters, and they need to do who like praise him and flatter him basically, and 2 of the daughters like praise him and flatter him and to high heavens and all that, but the third one, who is like the favorite of him, Cordelia, and who's the most sincere of them, doesn't flatter him and is just basically silent and doesn't like say anything else that I just love you so much that I can't say anything like like overly flatter, like I have basically it's like I have nothing more to say than give my love to you. So is not a silence brimming with love more precious than flattery is so obviously like a comparison to that. A peaceful slumber preferred to a throne besmirched with blood. This is kind of confusing because this could like it's on the same, like it's supposed to be like King Lear, obviously, since it's on the same like like a page, let's say. But in this situation, there was no peaceful slumber preferred to a throne besmirched with blood. So I just thought that maybe it's like an extra thing, because who knows? Like they don't explicitly tell you how King Lear has his throne. Like there are wars in that story, so it might be like a allusion to the like wouldn't you have like a throne, like a peaceful slumber instead of throne that is besmirched with blood, because the daughters start war, start to usurp and do all this like crazy stuff to actually like do things, and eventually everyone is at war and there's a battle. So it kind of could mean for that, and they're not explicitly saying how King Lear's was he actually a good ruler, was he actually like how did he come to power, was the throne inherited or was it got through war or like a battle or anything like that. So you can't really know. So there's a pretty high chance that it just refers to the King Lear. There's also a lot of basically that could fit to many other things. Like it could fit to Macbeth, because that guy just basically capture usurp the throne. It could fit to Hamlet, because there was a throne usurped in that also, and Hamlet actually tries to usurp the throne. It could fit to all of those, but is not a silence brimming with love more precious than flattery so obviously King Lear after you actually check it out that it has to be that. But the main question is this now 4th or 5th? Okay, so there's one more. Oh shit, there's actually more here. Now this makes sense. Okay, so this has to be the last one then. One vengeful man spilled blood for 2. 2 youths shed tears for 3. 3 witches disappeared thusly, and only the 4 keys remain. I'm only looking at the 3 witches disappeared thusly because 3 witches, like, this is so strange because This could allude to like a couple of things, but the three witches, like the only, I was thinking that maybe it's an like a symbolic thing because there were three daughters to King Lear, so maybe it might be they'd be called three witches in that. But then again, why would they call that good daughter witch also? It would be kind of misleading. So what I thought that was the Macbeth story actually has literally three witches talking to Macbeth about the whole like thing, like giving him a premonition or foretelling his future to be a king, and that's why he starts like killing, like usurp the throne and starts wars and gets paranoid and kills people and all that shit. And that is the only one, so it kind of makes sense for it to be over here. But the other ones are kind of questionable things, like, and only the 4 keys remain. What the fuck does that mean? There's like, I don't understand the 4 keys, and I was thinking that, okay, so maybe you actually need to like read the whole like stories with like actual lines in there, and there'd be a mention of 4 keys somewhere, like an obscure mention of it. And then there's 2 huge shed tears for 3, which is like, wait, that kind of sounds like doesn't that sound like Romeo and Juliet? 2 huge shed tears for 3. Except that I was thinking, what the fuck, like 3? Why did the 2 huge shed tears for 3? That's kind of strange. Like there wasn't really that much. But then I thought that, okay, in Macbeth actually the king who is killed, the Macbeth's king, who he kills, and whose throne he usurps, he actually had 2 sons that had to escape the whole like country. They were actually alive, and they're the ones who, the other one is actually one who comes back to proclaim the throne from Macbeth. So maybe those were the 2 youths that it mentions, and they were shedding tears for 3? Wait, 3? But in the book, like in the story, Macbeth actually kills. First of all, he kills the king, and then he tries to, like, he and his wife try to frame the 2 chamber servants or attendants or whatever they are of the king for that deed. They try to frame it to them. And what happens is that Macbeth actually kills the 2 servants also because they weren't in the so that they wouldn't like spoil or couldn't be able to prove their innocence, and he was like lying that he actually avenged the king for and killed them because of for the king. So the 2 youths had to escape, so they would shed tears basically for 3 people who were killed in that situation. Right? That was my logical thinking here. I mean, it makes sense. Okay, there's 2 things that make sense for it to be Macbeth, the last one. And I'm getting ahead of myself. How do we know this is the last one? But we'll see. 1 vengeful man spilled blood for 2. Okay, so this was actually like kind of confusing because I was thinking, okay, so this might be Hamlet. He's avenging his father. But what do you mean he spills blood for 2? Like, does he spill blood like of 2 people? Or does it mean perhaps that he spills blood for himself and someone else? Like on behalf of 2. Himself and someone else's. I mean, for Hamlet that would make sense. He would be avenging his father and himself. But Hamlet is already there. It's kind of strange. Then I was thinking that the Macbeth thing, how would it make sense? Like, if those 2 are already Macbeth, how would this make sense to be a Macbeth also? Like, you could think that he is like a vengeful man. But is he really avenging? I mean, the only thing that I was thinking about was that the two-part doesn't really make sense. But then I figured that his wife, Lady Macbeth, actually convinced him to do kill the usurp the throne and like get there and all that. So he'd be spilling blood for two people, for himself and his wife. So maybe it meant that. I was like jumping to these kinds of conclusions for it. So it at least the two parts make really much sense for it to be Macbeth. And the first part kinda makes sense, except the vengeful man. He wasn't really vengeful. He wasn't really avenging anything. So maybe. I mean, and then there's like this part, and you're like, what the hell? Is this part of the storyline? And it like tries to confuse more. But verily, in here is a tragedy. Art thou player or audience? There is nothing which cannot become a puppet of fate or an onlooker peering into the cage. This like doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't like make any sense for any of the storylines or the books. And then there's like this repeating line, art thou player or audience, which kind of made me thinking, since the solution isn't as simple as just like putting the books in the correct order. It made me think that maybe they're talking about on the look of the, like why I started to like think about the dates and amount of dates in the books, or the like the people involved in it like initially and all that. So yeah, anyway, that's it. So obviously it seems like the last one is this one, and it should be Macbeth, right? It kind of feels, except for the 4 keys remain. Most of these like come true, especially the 3 witches. That's the biggest key part. So I'm going to go with the fact that the last one is Macbeth, and I think Macbeth was the 3rd one, right? Yeah. So Macbeth is the last one, and now we can kind of like figure out, because the previously like the second to last one, according to that, it should be this. Is not a silence brimming with love more precious than flattery, a peaceful slumber preferred to a throne besmirched with blood? So that would mean that kind of like the only logical explanation would be the King Lear and the whole daughter Cordelia situation. I feel like this should be like King Lear, second to last one. I mean, it might also be like the... So King Lear is the second one. Yeah. God damn it. So I feel like the last one should be King Lear. I went with that. It could make an allusion for Macbeth also, like the thrones besmirched with blood, and the whole you could make a certain type of like an allusion. So that would leave Othello here, which kind of makes sense, because the whole black and white game and all that, but it was just like it's on 2 separate pages, which is like, why? Why do you want to fuck up the whole like thing? Why do you want to make it more confusing and not like offer logical like thoughts to it? You know what I mean? Like, this is so strange. But I was like pretty confident that that is the order, actually. That has to be the order. There's like, but that has to be the one. So 4 1 5 2 3. 4 1 5 2 3. Let's go check it out. So 4, 1, 5, 2, 3. Okay. Well, nothing happened. So it can't be that. Then you start to second guess yourself and you start to like circle around the numbers and like thinking that, what the fuck? How? Is this really the correct order? Like, huh? Then you start to look at like do the whole. Maybe it's the like it says that it says the Arto player or audience. Maybe part of some of that is like the thing. Maybe you need to like count the amount of people in that book. Okay. Or maybe all going only toward death means something. Maybe it's like you have to count all the people who died or all the main characters who died. And what part of them makes sense because you're like they're like single digit numbers. So it wasn't that. Like, what the hell? Then you actually need to go like, am I on the right track? Is this like is it this one? Like, what the hell? You start to think that maybe the thing is that what if this isn't like any of the books? Because it could imply to 3 different like books. Maybe this actually is something else. Like, what the hell? And then you start to like do these mental gymnastics of what the hell? How does this make sense? Well, like maybe the numbers have some meaning to them. Maybe like first you think that okay, maybe that's the order for the numbers, but then what about the order of the books? Why it doesn't matter at all? Then you start to think like what if these numbers correspond to those books by the like how they are? So maybe actually one vengeful man was Hamlet, and you need to like it needs to be 2, and 2 youths said tears for 3 was Romeo and Juliet, and 3 witches disappeared thusly. Maybe it's 4 actually, like the Macbeth thing. And then you start to do that, and then you're like fucking confused. What the fuck? This doesn't make any sense because that's not the correct one. And then you're just like, okay, does the order of the books actually matter? Is it like that? And then you go, then I was stumped because I was like spinning around and trying different like things and was like, what the fuck? I tried adding those numbers into the like the books and all that because I wasn't even sure if the once vengeful man spilled for blood for 2 was it actually like was it actually Othello? I mean Othello there's no 2 people dying in like there's 2 people dying in Othello, but the other one isn't the one who was Othello doesn't kill, like he kills himself. So maybe he actually maybe that means that he killed himself and his wife, so spilled blood for 2. Maybe it must be Othello. So you start to add those things and add those numbers in there, thinking like which one is which, like getting more confused, getting more into the like the second guessing yourself. And I did that for a fucking long time, trying to spin this around and trying to figure it out with my meager pea brain. And eventually I just gave up and went to like, can I find some sort of like hints anywhere? I don't want to spoil the answer instantly. I just want to find like, confirm my suspicions. Like, for example, is that the amount of books that you actually, like, is that the correct order of the books first of all? Okay? So I tried to search and I searched for the YouTube video and I found it and it said that like I got to the point where it said that yes, this is the correct order of the book. I was right about that. Okay, so then what am I missing? How the fuck am I like not getting this through? And the video says that there's more to it than that. The last page is the key. And that's where I actually was like, oh. So the order is actually correct, but this is the key somehow. And that's enough of what it actually took me to figure this out. So I was right in the part that they're actually like supposed to be the books of the ones that I that describe this. It's not like the weirdest part is I'm actually like looking at this wrong, and after looking at the video later on, I found out that there's this puzzle has like it's kind of fucked up. The part of the description, and yeah, it is. So this doesn't allude, this whole like line or page doesn't allude to Macbeth, even though it kind of feels like it, and there's no like none of the pages actually like allude to it completely. So it's like I feel like this is the part they fucked up with the whole like explanation or translation or that, or maybe not fucked up, but it's not very like what's the word, like comprehensively made. Or maybe I'm just salty that I'm so stupid that I don't understand this. Either way, it's like I don't feel like it's really that well made. But anyway, this doesn't, like, the Macbeth book is not this one. It doesn't mean that. Although the Macbeth book can be in this part for the reasons coming. So One Vengeful Man Spilled Blood for Two is actually Hamlet. And the thing is, you can kind of like figure it out. Like these four things doesn't really they don't actually make sense. They're not the like in the book. It's just like this tells the order and it tells how much do you need. Like, so One Vengeful Man's, like, even this is so like, I don't know, this is so weird. I had to fuck around with this a bit as well, but since I knew I was on the right track, I just brute forced myself basically through this. But the thing is, One Vengeful Man Spilled Blood for Two is Hamlet, and then you start to think that wait, what does that mean? Like, is that two like do you need to add two, or do you need to like take two off? Like, do you need to use the number for that book? And this is like part where it took me a while, because I was trying to do this for Othello and all that, like one vengeful, like Hamlet and Othello are the biggest like vengeful things that you can think of. So I was trying to fuck around with those, and yeah, and then the whole thing is that, do you need to take two out, or do you need to add two? What does that spilled blood for two mean? But it actually means you need to multiply it by two, the number of the book. So you need to multiply the Vengeful Man, which is Hamlet, with two. And it's actually, Hamlet book is number 4, the first starting book. So if you multiply it by 2, it's 8 actually. So to cut the story short, it's 8. I needed to fuck around with it a lot, with all of these a lot. As long as I knew that I'm doing the right thing, I actually managed to fucking brute force myself through it. And it took a long time. So 2 huge set tears for 3, that's got to be Romeo and Juliet. That's kind of like 2 huge set tears. Like 2 huge... it's only basically that's the only book where there's like a tragic story of 2 youths. That's the main thing. So it has to be 2 Romance Juliet. And in this part also, I tried to fuck around with, like, what 3? Like, do you add 3? But then again, it doesn't matter. I got it easily because, you know, the book is number 1. So even if you add 3 or multiply it by 3, you get 4. So it would be 4, 8, 4. Then there's 3 witches disappeared thusly. And that was kind of like what I was wondering. What the hell? What does that mean? But and this would have been actually pretty difficult to figure out, like the rest of this. But 3 witches disappeared, and the book 3 is actually Macbeth. Like the Macbeth book, which it is alluding to, is actually number 3. So that kind of means that if you take away, if it would be like disappeared minus, it would be 0, right? So this was kind of easy to think about, but even that didn't work actually. And only the 4 keys remain. And this is starting to make sense after you, like, if you read the 3 witches disappear thusly and only the 4 keys remain. If you read that paragraph, like, together, this starts to, like, make sense. There were only 4 keys, 4 button presses, 4 of those codes, like 4 digits left. And you start to think like, oh, maybe 3 witches disappeared completely. Like, they didn't, like, negate, like, it wasn't 0, like, it wasn't minus 3. Maybe they just disappear, and there's only 4 keys. And then you go, hold on, could it be this? Like, the first one is 4 times 2, the Hamlet. The second one would be 1 times 3, or 1, basically, well, you can have it like 4, but 1 times 3. The third one should be, what was it, 5? Like Othello, yeah? There's no mention of it, so it's 5. And then it's King Lear, and the last one would be the 3 witches, but like the Macbeth, but they said that 3 witches, so maybe I'll try 2-0 first. Oh fuck! What? So it wasn't through 2-0, and it actually meant that the whole, like, book actually disappears. Interesting. Well, that took way too long. That was way too difficult. That was like insane fucking puzzle. And the problem isn't that you need to know about the whole, like, Shakespeare lore. It's not like, if it would be only known about Shakespeare lore, yeah, just go to internet and just search for the storylines and make deductions of that. And even then they could have made it like a pretty good, like a puzzle by giving you the solutions around the shopping mall, for example, that you need to, like, read through some hidden, like, maybe not hidden hints, but read through some lores that they tell you about the outline of the story of Macbeth and all that, and you can kind of, like, start figuring it out from that, and then you, like, solve the puzzle here by that. And you wouldn't need to, like, get an outside knowledge of things. And that would be like a decently made puzzle, in my opinion. But then they have to add, like even the last part isn't a problem if it would be completely outlined what is the books exactly. That the last one isn't part of the book, because it's so convoluted, or like so it can mean either one. So if it could be like Macbeth in the last part, but it's not actually. It's not. Macbeth could be anywhere basically there, and you can, like, solve that if you just understand that the Macbeth book actually vanishes completely. It's not going to 0, it vanishes. That's one of the things that's like makes this puzzle also like way too confusing and way too. In my opinion, it's not very well made puzzle. I just have to be honest. Like if there wouldn't be the 0 part, you wouldn't be confused about that. It would be like, okay, there's no 0, so it has to mean that the witches get out. But if you start to think about it, like the others are like adding multiplicatively, like multiplying the number, and then you have like this one which you assume that it was like minus because they others were like multiplied. So you'd assume that it was 0 because it takes away the 3. And then you'd be like, okay, there's no 0 here on the keypad, so that can't be it. So it has to mean that the book is like gone. And that would make it actually a I don't know, like a humanly solvable puzzle perhaps. But it's just like I don't know about these puzzles. I mean, I'm honestly seriously thinking about restarting this playthrough and starting it on the normal and seeing if those puzzles are like actually thing, because if this is the first fucking puzzle and it's this kind of like an insane bullshit thing, I have no way of like finishing this game in any like realistic time ever. I'm probably never going to finish it. If the other like if this is the first puzzle, imagine what the other ones will be. They'll be like so insane that you can't just like finish them. And it's just not like I'd hate to be saying this like because it makes me feel like it makes me sound like a salty idiot, you know, like a pretty dumb people when I say this. But I feel like this puzzle isn't good and it should like not very good and it should have been done in a different way. For example, like completely like separating the whole which parts you need to multiply from the like the basic story and not confusing the player with like having 2 text pages for one single entry. And I feel like or having like one single page for 2 different books. I feel like that's not very well made. I feel like they should have made that a little bit better. But from what I understood, this is like one of the hardest puzzles in the series ever. So, yeah. Anyway, it's done. I got through it. I didn't need to like look at the complete solution and the code. I could figure it out from hints, but it still makes me so it makes me so salty that I had to actually do that. Even though I can admit that I'm not the smartest player in the house, in the room. Well, maybe in the room, because there's not really anything else in here, but not the smartest player ever. So, yeah. I mean, well, it's done. And I guess I'm going to be just going ahead of while to see how it goes. But if the next puzzle is going to be like this insane, yeah, I'm going to restart the game. I mean, I want to finish the game, but I want to be able to finish it with my own like skills and not just like needing to constantly go and look at hints and solutions outside. Unless it's like some research like that. I wouldn't mind that Shakespeare, like you'd need to know about the Shakespeare thing because I can just go and read up on it and it's just like using time for it instead of like looking up at the solution instantly, if you know what I mean. And I'd be doing the work basically and trying to figure it out. But yeah. Anyway, that was my over an hour analysis of this puzzle, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to be uploading this. I probably will upload this this video, but I don't think many people want to really watch me platter on and look at the solution that everyone already knows. Yeah.